Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this video looking at diversifying accountancy services. I'm indebted to Amanda from Amanda Gascoigne Consulting for inviting me to make this presentation to this group of clients and friends and associates that Amanda has. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope I can give you an understanding of my views on what this challenge is for accountants looking at diversifying services. What are your firm's points of difference? It's an important question because in the eyes of many small, medium enterprises, most accountancy firms look the same. Because over the years, most accountancy firms, especially those dealing with the SME market, have tended to concentrate on the preparation of annual accounts and income tax returns. Some diverted back in the 80s into financial planning type advice. Obviously, some firms do undertake audits and get involved in insolvency work, but in the main, it's annual accounts and tax returns. But what some of our colleagues have done in various industries is create industry specializations. And I've seen people who are involved with merino wool, cattle, broad growing of crops and fruits, medical practices, pharmacies, builders, dental practices, specialist tradie type businesses. So there's plenty that you can become an expert in. And what they've achieved by doing this is because they've had some concentration in those industries, they've been able to develop detailed knowledge on how businesses operate. And you don't have to do too much of that to be deemed to be an expert. Diversification is important for accountants, for you to help in this new challenging world that we now live in. But it's also very important for SMEs. I watched the webinar earlier today, and the theme was using digital technology and communications and promoting your business via Zoom, and I generally endorse all those concepts. But one of the interesting comments that the host made was that a survey had been conducted recently by all sorts of people in the business community, SMEs, accountants, lawyers, and 81% had indicated that they did not expect business to return to what it looked like in the beginning of 2020 when COVID-19 decided to come to visit us all. So there's going to be a lot of changes. What changes do you imagine are going to be present in your business, or have you already made them? Have you already gone down the diversification path? Hopefully our conversation today will help you. I hope you've read the Accounting Market Pulse report. If not, I would suggest that you obtain a copy of it. It's produced by the Commonwealth Bank, and this is the 6th year of publication. They've given us a great service by doing some digging into the accountancy profession. They've dug down, which is exactly what I'm going to advocate that you do a little bit later on in this presentation when it comes to analysing your SME clients' performances. So the new service area that the CommBank has identified is business advisory services. Now, I've read their reports for the last 6 years. They've been building up to this, but now they have clearly endorsed based on the surveys that they conducted. And one of the results of the surveys was very interesting. They asked the firms that they surveyed, and they were large, medium-sized and small from all over Australia put together. Will you be diversifying your services in the next 2 years? Only 5% of the firms that they interviewed said they would not be diversifying. So swing that round the other way. That obviously means that 95% of the firms that they surveyed intend to diversify services over the next 2 years. And by implication, the Commonwealth Bank is saying they expect 95% of accounting firms in Australia to be diversifying over the next 2 years. What's your diversification policy? What are you going to do? Hopefully, this conversation will help you. The points of difference. What difference will the marketplace notice? I think the marketplace does notice those accountants who are specialising within some of those individual industries that I spoke about before. And it's important that you take note of those. And there's a lot more specialisation going on than what we think. There's also expert status. Now, expert status can be earned through your knowledge of a particular industry. It might be earned through writing articles on social media, presenting videos like this, using the technology that Zoom has given us to be able to talk to literally thousands of people about what you're doing within your firms, accounting, business advisory, bookkeeping, or chief financial officers. And if your firm has enough resources when it comes to team members, I think it would be very advisable for you to be encouraging the development of product champions, so that you have someone within your firm who understands debtors management very clearly and understands the importance of reducing the debtors days outstanding calculation. A few years ago, Australia was awarded the dubious title of having the longest debtors days outstanding in the world. And the figure that they settled on that Australia had was 56.4 days. A recent survey indicated that the current balance is 56 days. So in the 3.5 years since that original report was prepared, the reduction has only been 0.4 days. I think what that's highlighting is that accountants in particular need to be having a close look at your clients' debtor systems. Where could improvements be made? Because in that intervening period, the Prime Minister ordered all federal government departments to make payments to SMEs within 30 days. And the Prime Minister pleaded with big business to do likewise. And many big businesses publicly announced, at least, that they were going to do so. So if the federal government departments are paying debtors days outstanding promptly, why is that figure so high? Worth thinking about. Incidentally, the managing director of Scottish Amicable, who are a major debtor financer, indicated that he believed that in the turnover figures, which is probably crucial to most of you, 1 million to 10 million, the actual debtors days outstanding figure there was 66 days. So I think every firm should have an expert, a product champion on debtors management to help your clients. But there's plenty of other things also. It might be tradie charge out rate calculations. It might be retailers giving advice on the mixture of stock and the markup components that vary to achieve an overall profit. Let's look at what expert status is. I think it's showing that you've got a far greater knowledge about a business than normal. You've done some digging. You've understood how all the components come together. You understand how the business operates so that you can give guidance to the CEO. I really think part of the key diversification strategies for all of you should be that you are going to offer yourself up as a virtual chief financial officer so that you can fit in for an hour a week or 3 hours a week or half a day a week or whatever to be the chief financial officer to help the CEO, general manager, owner, whatever he wants or she wants to call themselves, that they're able to get some competent financial advice, commercial advice. You won't get many questions about taxation, but you'll get a lot of questions. I was the chief financial officer and company secretary on a listed stock exchange company. And if you've heard me talk before, you'll know that I've often made the comment, I reckon 2 hours a day, I answered what if questions from the CEO, from some of our external directors, and from other members of the leadership team. And some days it was 10 hours. Because the CEO's got a lot of things going on in his or her mind all day. So they tend to be asking questions. Can we do that? Could we switch that product that was going to go to Japan? Could it go to Russia? What's the differences? What's, what other issues come to account, whether it was exchange rates, whether it was currency, whether it was the export permits we had to get, whatever. And what's all that going to cost? And at the end of the day, someone had to make a decision. Is it worthwhile doing it? I saw my role to make sure that my team produced all the information. We laid it out. It wasn't our decision to say whether the company was going to switch from one market to another. That was someone probably a bit higher pay grade than mine. But I had to give him the information so he could make that decision. Doesn't the same thing apply to your clients? So please think about that, because that is really going to give you that expert status if you can be the supplier of that information for your client. So let's go through some of the things that you may have influenced your client to have, or that you're aware of them and you closely look at them. Now, I know that some of what we're about to talk about, you probably never look at when it comes to the preparation of an annual set of accounts and a tax return. But for the financial stability of the business, this is very important. So is there a job costing system? Are financial accounts prepared for each operating component of the business rather than getting all put together into one P&L account? How do you analyze it when there's 5 or 6 separate business units all in one P&L account? Doesn't make sense. You can do it like that to send it to the tax office when you're getting the data for the tax return, but please keep it separate. And that will help you develop your expertise, because you will have a far better understanding of the individual components of the business. And the same thing then applies to key performance indicators. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm paranoid about separating the individual components into a P&L account, so that you can then get realistic, usable key performance indicators. Because otherwise they don't mean anything. You're mixing 6 businesses or whatever together. Break it down so that the person who's got responsibility for running the vehicles has got his own P&L account, his own key performance indicators. Have they got a strong inventory system? Do they understand it? What's the investment at the end of last month? What's it supposed to be? Why is there variations? What's the stock turn rate? Dig down into it. Why is there such an investment in this level of stock? Weren't we going to run that down? Or has it been automatically reordered as it got to a certain level? A bit like the old bin card systems we used to have when I was a young accountant. And sometimes you'd find that things got reordered because it just got to that level, whereas the decision had been made to go out of that product, but someone forgot to write it on the bin card. The same thing happens more often than you think with computerized systems also. So it's having that knowledge and looking at them. I've already mentioned debtors, so I'm not going to go back over it, but you really need to have a antenna that's swinging around on debtors. How quick are the statements sent out? How quick was the tax invoice sent? Did the tax invoice have a due date for payment on it? Was there a follow-up system? You don't probably worry about any of this when it comes to the tax return, but it's pretty important helping your client survive. And this is the expertise. I think your champions, if you happen to have a few young accountants in your team, should be preparing articles and should have the confidence to be able to speak to those articles via Zoom or other forms of communication using computers, or in talking to a group of clients, whether it's 2 clients or 22 or 200. They need to develop that confidence, because this is the new era of a great profession. And we need to ownership all these separate offshoots of it. That's a bit like the sporting associations. You've observed at the Olympic Games, there were some new sports, but a lot of them are being tagged under the umbrella organisations. Some of those new bike events, which were spectacular, the BMX, etc., they're under Australian cycling, I understand. So I think accountants have got to do the same thing. We've got to control the variations of our industry, otherwise others will. So I think you need to be anointed as an expert by your client. And you'll only get that if you can talk the language to them about a whole range of matters, including taxation. But you need to embrace these other items. Experience for business advisory services. What do you need? I think you need to be interested in how individual businesses operate. So the journey doesn't start with the profit and loss account and the balance sheet. It goes back earlier than that. How's all these figures put together? How's the whole process work? Who looks after what? Where are the potential slippages? Where could the client be losing out? So you also need an awareness of what is happening in the broader business community. If you don't already do so, I'd suggest you do go to Chamber of Commerce meetings and industry association meetings. Tag along with some of your clients. Go to their industry meetings. Sit and listen. You'll soon become a person who's accepted as being an expert, and you'll pick up work because others in that same industry will see that you're there. Oh, he or she already knows something about my industry. So I'll go and talk to her and see what she can do for me, because she understands the problems we have in our particular industry. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's cafes, restaurants, nightclubs, hotels, motels, tourist attractions, or corner stores. They've all got their peculiarities. So let's look at the business experience. I think it's important to understand how larger businesses operate in the similar industry. I was in the meat industry when I was with a public company. We were Australia's second largest Australian-owned meat group. So we had retail shops, we had delicatessens, we had boning rooms, we had export facilities, large plants employing a couple of thousand people at each of them. We had freezer stores. So we had all these different business units spread over 3 states of Australia. So I had 13 accountants answerable to me when I was the CFO. They were separated all around Australia. Only 3 or 4 were anywhere near me in the head office environment. The rest were in their localities. So how does your business fit together? How do your clients fit together? I think it's a good idea to look down at looking at the systems that could be implemented. Because what I discovered was that big business models itself on what it thinks small business does. So it sets up a series of small businesses and puts an area manager in control, puts an accountant there with that person, or an experienced bookkeeper, office manager, and some clerical staff, and they run it as a separate little business unit. And then they fit in to other businesses around Australia. So couldn't you develop a cut down version of that and say, this is the type of system that this particular client should have that's in the same industry, for argument's sake, butcher shops? How would you run them? Because I think that that's how large companies do it. I can remember talking to the general manager of a large Woolworths supermarket. Both of my children worked there when they were going through both school and uni. And I found out that he had 42 departments in his store, and that he knew by Monday lunchtime the trading results for each of those 42 departments for the week ending on either on the Saturday or the Sunday, depending when they traded. He had all that information, yet outside his supermarket, there was a retail butcher shop, there was a chicken shop, there was a bottle shop, there were various other privately owned businesses. Now, I know some of them got into difficulties because I had my antenna up. I was watching what was going on. Why? Well, perhaps they were only getting their financial accounts prepared once a year. Perhaps their accountant was only looking at the annual accounts and the tax return. I think we've got to be more forthright with our clients. We've got to be talking to them and saying to them their chances of success are going to be improved if they commission you to do a proper job. And the tax return and annual accounts is only part of it. So let's look at the key components of a cut down version system. I think every business unit should have its own budget. So you could use predictive accounting, which we're part of with Paul Barnaby from Beyond Accounting Technologies and Plan Guru, the software writer in America, that they should have their own budgets. Weekly performance reports are mandatory in most big companies for any of their operations. Why aren't they for small businesses? People just don't do it. And they wonder why they get into financial difficulties, because these contain profitability estimates. They're only estimates, but in the industry I was in, they were expected to be 98% accurate. So we had to use estimates for some costs, which we might not have known that week. And then get key performance indicators also for that day or week. And then monthly financial accounts for each of those business units. And the monthly key performance indicators. And monthly do a comparison back to budget. What caused the variations? And I think there should be a monthly business review meeting, and you should be discussing with your clients the preference for you to be the facilitator of that on a fee-for-service basis, of course. So it's properly coordinated. So it does run on the set date so that the reports are prepared, the minutes are prepared from the previous meeting. And the action plan has been developed from the previous meeting, sent round, and there's some follow-up, making sure the reports have come back in. That's really offering a service, because that's what happens in bigger companies. And bigger companies don't fall over as anywhere near as much as what small businesses do. I think this is one of the big, glaring, obvious areas. And as a profession, I think we've ignored it for far too long. We've now got communication facilities. We can have Zoom meetings with clients, no matter where they are. We've also got computers, and we've got telephone systems. So it's a lot easier to do it these days. There should be no more excuses. We could have an annual strategic planning meeting that, again, you could be suggesting to the client that it's a good idea to have an external facilitator. You could handle that for them. Because if you were the virtual CFO or even the permanent CFO, that's one of the roles you'd probably have in a lot of companies. I certainly had it in the company that I was in. Empathy. Empathy is important. You need to have an understanding of what's going on in your clients' minds. And a lot of them have got what if questions. What if we did this? What if we did that? When I was in a public company, I reckon I used to spend 2 hours every day answering the what if questions, that I call them, over the whole day. They just didn't come to me in 2 hours. They were just spread out all day. I get these short phone calls from the boss. Pete, what can you look at if we can switch such and such a run that we were about to do, was going to be exported to Japan. Could we send it to Russia? Here's the price offer we're getting out of Russia, but there's obviously some extra costs. We had to sit down and work out the costs and submit it back to him for review. What do your clients do? Do they ring you now and talk about that? Well, that's great if they do, because no one will convince me that the SME CEOs haven't got the same sort of questions that are bothering him or her. They wake up at 3 a.m. worried about it. I can assure you, I used to get some 3 a.m. phone calls from my boss. Part of his excuse was he was already up and he was in his car. I'm going back prior to mobile phones in wide usage, thank goodness. I that would have been getting a lot more of those phone calls, I think, because while he's driving a car, I couldn't get them. But this is an important area for your clients. Who do they direct their questions to? And if you're going to be supplying these diversified services, I think you need to be thinking about it. Communications. It's very important. We all need to be relaxed and able to utilize this sort of technology, which is fantastic, isn't it? Me being able to beam in and talk to you. But all accountants need to be able to confidently speak in public. And if you don't think you're capable of doing that, I'd urge you to join Toastmasters or some other service organization that will help you on that journey. I had a partner years ago, and I'd worked with him before we become owners and operators of an accounting firm. And he was no good at public speaking. And I said, we're going to be doing this very regularly. We were running seminars for SMEs. And his hands used to shake very bad. So I urged him to go and join Toastmasters. And he joined Toastmasters. And a year later, he was a very good speaker. He then went on in more recent times to become a very important person in a major charitable organization. And people who knew the story would come up to me and say, geez, wish you had urged Robert to go and learn how to speak. We can't shut him up now. Now they were joking. They were, like I was, quite proud of the way he overcome this problem. He really put himself through the time and the investment in some money in going to these training courses, but he learned to speak very confidently, virtually on any subject too, I've noted. Zoom webinars and seminars, I've talked about them, but they're an important part of how we have to communicate. Promotional marketing of diversified services, they need to be marketed. Please don't think just because you're going to hopefully subscribe to an ESS BIZTOOLS product or someone else's, that suddenly clients are going to come talking to you about undertaking business advisory services. Unfortunately, they won't. Why? They don't know you're doing this. You've got to communicate and tell them. And we know how often we've got to communicate with people before they really let it sink in. The webinar I was looking at this morning was on digital marketing. And it said that on average, you have to follow up someone you have actually talked to. You've had a Zoom meeting with. You've got to follow them up at least 5 times before you'll get a positive answer. Whereas most of us only contact them once. You've got to keep on going back. So you need to be telling your clients and your prospects that you can do these things. Now, it might be a bit boring and you might want to look at varying how you tell them, but you need to make sure they know. Because most of your clients have become brainwashed that they think all that accountants can do is prepare annual accounts and income tax returns, because that's all we've talked to them about for the last 40 years that I can remember. So we need to change. You need to change the perception. Your team needs to be trained so that they can answer questions, they can communicate. That if they're asked a question, they're able to talk about the capabilities of your firm. If you haven't got a capability statement, you should be preparing one, and all your clients should have one. You should be able to do a 30-second presentation. You, as the partners or owners of a firm, and any of your team members should be able to clearly articulate what your firm does. That is how you're going to get the message across into the marketplace of the type of services that you offer. ESS BIZTOOLS has introduced some specialist products that are part of all of our subscription packages to assist with this marketing and promotion. The first one is what we call Business Plus. This is a monthly newsletter we produce, 4 A4 pages in 98% of the time. A subscriber badges it with their name and details, XYZ accountants, street address, telephone number, web address. You can edit articles if you want to. You can add to the material if you wish. And within it, there will be at least 6 articles directed at business people in different times. So there's always some articles directed at people starting a business or buying a business. There's tends to be articles on innovation. So we might have one on innovation, talking about research and development. There's a summary of grant deadlines that are approaching, like the Export Market Development Grant application. Incidentally, if you've got clients who are undertaking exporting, there's a new system started from July 1 this year. And in fact, you now have to apply in advance to be able to get an Export Market Development Grant, whereas previously, for the previous 10 years, you've lodged details of what you spent the money on and then hope that Austrade will approve it. It's now, I think, a lot easier. But the current applications for this current year, 2021-22, are now open. They open on the 16th, which is a day or so ago, and they run through to the 30th of November. So you need to have a look at that. And we have a full paper on all of that explaining the changes. So Business Plus is a great way to communicate. I call it a marketing tool for accountants, because with every article at the end, the last paragraph, we got a call to action. If you are interested in understanding more about how the Export Market Development Grant operates, please contact. Now you can insert a name there if you like, or we normally put the person in our organization that you normally talk to, trying to get the client to take some action. But it's an information resource for your SME clients. They read it and they say, oh, okay, is that how the Export Market Development Grant operates? Now, I'm not suggesting that every article's of interest to every one of your clients, but you'll find that a lot of them are very interested in what's put in that. The other marketing tool we've got is the SME Needs Analysis. I think it's the most important document in our whole product range, because it raises a series of questions to get your client thinking and asking questions. You might raise with him debtors days outstanding, and a lot of clients will say to you, well, what is it? What's it mean? How's it calculated? What's ours? Because they don't know. Why don't they know? Well, without being too critical of our profession, I think they don't know because you don't need to know that figure when it comes to the preparation of the tax return. But it's very important from the client to understand, especially if it's beyond 30 days, which is what it should be. So the SME now Needs Analysis then gives you the opportunity to say to your client, well, why don't we sit down and have a cup of coffee about that? I'll put it in my calendar to come out and see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Is that okay? Then you can talk to them. You have to go through this information process to really establish business advisory services. And what that's going to be conveying to the client is, yeah, you can do a lot more than just tax return work. Diversified services that your firm could communicate. Tradies charge out rate calculator. We have a calculator which will help you look at how you charge out to tradies. We've also got a similar one for professional services firm charge out rates. And it's looking at the individual working hours, the amounts of pay, the productivity percentage management expects, or you expect these people to produce, what the overhead costs are, what the markup is on external purchases, particularly for tradies. How much do they think they're going to spend in the 12 months on external purchases? What sort of return on investment would they like to earn, or what sort of profit? So you can factor that in and then work out for them charge out rates. And it's interesting to compare what they've currently got. But they're normally talking to you about this because they've got some problems. They're not achieving their profits. One of our clients uses that particular package, tradies, for over 100 tradies each year. And he also bills them an extra $5,000 to $7,000 each to prepare monthly accounts and have a monthly meeting with them. So he's turned his 100 clients into quite a nice little fee earner. And that fee that I mentioned is over and above whatever he was charging them before we developed that package for annual accounts and taxation services. Retail wholesalers, they've got this problem where there's a mixture of products and different markups. Which ones should they be pushing? Which ones should they be subtly changing in their layout of their business? Because the stock's got things like they're a star and others are cash cows. You've got to have them, but you're not going to really make much money out of them. They've got problem lines and they've got really disastrous sort of stock areas that they shouldn't have in their store. How's it all come together? The business is trying to trade at a profit. We've got a package which will assist you to be able to make some input into those decisions within your clients. And you could offer a virtual chief financial officer service. And a lot of this, if you put it all together, is a virtual CFO service to help your clients navigate through these troubled waters. There's not a major company in Australia or organization, charities, whatever, that hasn't got a chief financial officer. I think the same thing should extend to virtually every SME that's running a serious business, but we'll call it virtual because it's only part-time. And you're going to have to use communications technology like Zoom and your computers, but you can do it. So I think what you've got to be doing is looking at proactively identifying clients who are keen to scale up their businesses also. People who really want to grow. Their turnover currently might be $2 million, but they want it to be 5 million within 3 years. They want to be 10 million within 5 years. How are they going to do that? They need a leadership team. They need vision. They need energy. They need money. Don't ignore their requests. Don't encourage them to go to someone else. And then you read about them in 5 years' time that they're now a 30 million turnover company. Why not join them on the journey? It's exciting working with clients that are going somewhere. I've got 2 at present. I'm excited. I still run a consulting business. And that's what really gets me out of bed early of a morning to work on their affairs. Because one of them's already achieved about a 20 million turnover. He tells me next year is going to be 40 million. How can you help those people? Debtors management strategies to reduce debtors days outstanding. I think you need to look at your very small businesses and say, what can we do with them? Now, if they don't want to do anything, sure, push them onto someone that's just going to do their tax returns. But some of them are involved in innovative type ideas. They might be researching. Have a good look at them. Try to understand what they're doing. See how you can assist them. And for clients who are on innovation, are you going to join them? Because it is an exciting journey. It starts with research and development. And they can apply for the research and development incentive rebate. They've got to be a company, but you need to be monitoring them on every stage of this journey. They could then apply once they're finished with the prototype, they've made something. They could apply for a accelerating commercialization grant. That's up to $1 million, free money, but they've got to match it. So then they might be interested in trying to raise capital as a company like Early Stage Innovation Company. I think you'll find that very interesting. And there's clients of all types starting to undertake these innovation journeys. And if the company is too old or too big, in other words, they've been operating for longer than 3 years and their income's over $200,000 and their expenditures over $1 million, that's the real definition for an early stage innovation company status. But if their turnover is under 25 million, they might be interested in trying to raise capital utilizing crowdsourced funding equity raising. They can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period from the public. It's not an IPO. Doesn't cost $1 million. It's a great way. And if you don't know anything about it, I really think you should, because you're going to find more and more of your clients are going down this path. Clients are going to need business or strategic plans prepared. And they would like to know, and one of the key services you can supply to them, especially wearing your virtual CFO hat, is predictive accounting, is painting the financial picture that emerges from their strategic plan. What's everything going to pan out like over the next 2, 3, 4 years? What's the balance sheet going to look like in 3 or 4 years' time? It's interesting stuff. It's very much real accounting work. So you can assist and coordinate the preparation of strategies for a business. And then the real challenge is implementing those strategies. So this is the opportunity for you to perform that Chief Financial Officer service for your clients. Do you want to know more? Do you want to know how you can go about delivering diversified accounting services and where you can start? I know Amanda's been talking to you about strategies relative to improving your current business. I think this is one that you should carefully consider. So I hope that you're interested in looking at delivering services to your clients. And on that basis, I'd be very happy to introduce you to the ESS BIZTOOLS services so you can undertake this journey of diversification. We've developed a special product package to help you get started. We call it the ESS BIZTOOLS Starter Package. It gives you some training modules, the same training modules that every one of our other subscribers gets, 13 modules to take you through the process. You get 12 client seminars ready for you to start presenting. You get access to 343 papers that you can badge and send to your clients. They're on about 60 different business categories. Because when you've talked to a client about early stage innovation company, you really need to send them something in writing. So you download that paper, badge it with your business name, firm name, and send it to them and say, as per our discussion this morning, here's an article which we have commissioned on how early stage innovation companies operates. I think you earn some real brownie points from that with your clients because they won't remember everything you say to them. The Business Plus newsletter, you get that. You get 12 editions of that to hand to your clients. The debtors management package, we've got that included in the system. So you can undertake that debtors system review. We have an outstanding package called Survival in Difficult Times that I originally wrote about 8 or 9 years ago when there'd been a cyclone caused a lot of problems in Western Australia. But since then, we've reproduced it every so often. Now we're going to keep it permanently in our product offering because COVID-19's really brought it to the fore again. 38 questionnaires to enable you to drill down into your client's affairs. And then it's linked to articles which we've dovetailed in with it, that if your client's got a problem with debtors management, here's some articles to convince them as to why you want to now undertake a debtors review and write them a new debtors systems manual, or it might be the first time they've ever had a written debtors systems manual. And I think this might be one of the reasons our debtors days outstanding are so high. Tradies charge out rate calculator that I talked to you before about, that's in the system. Same with that retail pricing calculator and the professional services firm charge out. So you're getting a range of services which will help you get underway. And you also get business health checks for 5 industries. This is a bit broader than benchmarking. It's allowing you to facilitate some internal reviews every month based on number of customers coming into the shopping center, number of customers that come into your client's store. All this can be recorded these days. What percentage was it? How did it compare to last week or last month? What does that tell management? These are the sort of things that go on in a lot of very successful businesses, and I think should go on in all of them. What was the average sale? What was the feedback we got? What was the criticism? What was the praise? What percentage? We also have an SME debtor systems manual. This is a template that we've produced on what I think are the important things in a debtor system. It goes for about 30 pages, but it's got the ability for you to edit it, to customize it, to suit exactly what a client calls things, or maybe there's some variations in their methodology of how they operate their business. And we also have leadership modules, and 4 of them are available in this package to help your team. You yourself, if you need it, good idea to read it and then communicate with your team on leadership issues. And you also receive 2 one-hour individual training sessions on how to use ESS BIZTOOLS and how to really adapt to the challenges of offering a diversified range of services to your clients. And we have a monthly group subscribers webinar that everyone's invited to, and we put out a monthly communication. We call it monthly. We do it about 10 months of the year, members alert. I'd like you to join me on that journey. And we have a super offer for you. Our upfront annual payment for 12 months for that package that I just went through is normally $2,100. But we've got a special offer for friends and associates of Amanda Gascoigne Consulting. Amanda's one of our affiliates. Amanda works with us. She has been for the last 2 or 3 years. And we're happy to extend this offer to her clients. We have been running a special at $999, but this is a special one for Amanda's clients and friends and associates. Upfront 12-month subscription, $900, including GST. And you get all that I just went through and summarized. You can upgrade at any time if you wish, but $900. And this special offer closes on the 6th of September. I look forward to hearing from you. If you'd like to view the product package, please go onto our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, and hit learn more about the other ESS BIZTOOLS products. And then click on to the starter package, and it will give you all of the information that you need. And if you'd like to subscribe while you're there, please click on to the log on details, and please enter the code BASSP so that you can avail yourself of that special offer, because if not, you'll get charged $999. So the special offer for you is $99 cheaper, and it's well and truly under the price that it's going to go back to on the 6th of September, 7th of September. If you need more information, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, or you could telephone me, 1-800-232-088. Or obviously you can visit our website. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to working with you to help you navigate the challenges that diversification does offer to accountants, business advisors, bookkeepers, and chief financial officers. But it's an exciting journey, a journey that I think you will all enjoy. Stay safe wherever you are in Australia, especially if you're in any of those lockdown areas. We are thinking about you. And have a great day. And Amanda, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to your very select group of clients, associates, and friends. Have a great day. Goodbye. And I hope you've learned something out of that overview. And as I said, if you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you.